Hot ball run rampant in Lawny as the fans dream of an unexpected flag, while an informed Jezek Cameron added another 9 to his bag. Jack Higgins had Carlton fans' hearts beating 1,000,000 minutes per second in one of the most chaotic finishes to a season you'd have to reckon. Caroline thinks Schofield can't coach because he has a sleeve, and the track is adamant he wants to leave. To dissect the home and away season during the pre-finals bye, this is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub with a man who played 14 finals for the Saints, Joey Montagna.
Hello, Rabsy. Yeah, just a little breathe-out week, isn't it, this week? Just a little regroup and get ready for a big finals campaign, but nice to be here today.
Man who played 18 finals for the Pies and none for the Blues, Daisy Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Rabbits. And the footy continues, Joey. AFLW firing up Friday night. I'll be up there covering it. Very much looking forward to a trip to Sydney.
And a man who's watched a lot of finals, Damien Barrett.
Yeah, and when you say there's a lot going on, you've missed the biggest story of the week too.
Which one's that?
Michael Voss making a civilian arrest.
Superhero.
Yeah, it's the story of the year, isn't it?
2 chase down tackles. It's incredible what he's done.
Talk us through it.
Yeah, from
Allegedly, there was a car that wasn't owned by the people in it, may have found itself on its side out the front of a cafe that Michael Voss was buying coffees in. And he
Allegedly buying
coffees. And then he allegedly chased someone down a laneway, got that person, and that person has allegedly been given bail for whatever may or not have happened. But imagine trying to run away just to remove the seriousness of it for a moment. And looking up and Michael Voss is after you. He's got the biggest forearms. Maybe Luke Beveridge might have been covered in forearm stakes, but they are rock hard, steely forearms, which are still dangerous.
I'd love to see the vision of the tackle and just like once he got him, there would have been follow up in the ear, like you know.
Well, I've already been given that it was reckless. It was high contact and high impact. He would have been given 5 weeks if it was on an AFL field.
You're right. He would have just rubbed it in once he got him already.
Yeah, it wouldn't have just been enough. There would have been follow up, a bit like when he rolled Scotty Burns in the grand final.
I was going to say, clearly these blokes haven't watched the O2 grand final.
No, well, allegedly they haven't.
No.
I heard he got him like he got Alan Richardson that day at the Gabba.
Pizzas.
Have you guys gone back for those pizzas at Rico's house or not? Because the fact there was 6 of you rocked up and he had 60 pizzas.
I tell you what, I think Alan Richardson needs to get that Melbourne team around all together and have pizzas at his house. That's what probably Melbourne Football Club need at the moment.
Well, they don't need pizzas because Track can cook.
That's true.
Do we want to park the track conversations to the news part? Because we normally try and be a bit lighthearted. And
we haven't had enough of it anyway.
Well, no, there's a bit to go out on it. But what about your week?
My week?
You've had to patch up some...
Yes. What about your new best friend? Tell us about your new best friend.
Kane will have a dynamic role with 7, which will include expert comments on footy broadcast, as well as being a go-to expert on 7 News for all the biggest footy news.
Kane Corns you for
Kane Corns.
You're
in besties now.
Massive. Do you want me to keep reading from that?
No, should we just remind everyone what Kane had to say about Daisy last year?
I'm sick of AFL figures having opinions off the back of other AFL figures, and the likes of Daisy Thomas and Tony Shaw, who work part-time and they don't have to do a lot of on-air time, for their big opinions this week to be something that I said 12 months ago on SEN SA is embarrassing. So get up early, watch the games, work hard, and stop having opinions off other people's opinions. If I employed these people, I'd want my money back.
To be fair, you're now doing Brekkie Radio, so you are getting up early.
4:20.
Yeah,
that's early enough. I would have thought young Sugar Cane.
I've heard Kane's taking credit for your meteoric rise in the media now.
We spoke to him.
You're airborne off the back of Kane's comments.
We spoke to him on the breakfast show when this was announced on Monday morning, it may have been, and he pretty much said that. I said, mate, I'm a part-timer. He goes, well, look, I probably can't take the credit and yada, yada. So pretty much he's claiming that, but it is a big signing.
It is. It is.
I'm still not officially signed to 7-2, okay. So whether or not this is the straw that broke the camel's back, and
really,
you know, I see myself back to.
How's it going to go down? In all seriousness, how is it going to go down? You had your run-ins, but you sort of are a person who gets on with stuff. Yeah. And I reckon you had anyway before yesterday's announcement. But Luke Darcy takes a while to get over certain things, and Trent Cotchin and Joel
He's rinsed Sal, he's rinsed Koch, he's rinsed Richo, Dars, JB.
BT copped a clip from
BT's
Kane.
copped a drive-by.
Well.
Aaron Phillips, Abby Holmes.
This is Kane on joining 7 and maybe having some relationships to mend.
Should we go through the names? I've offended Richo because I've been a bit critical. He hates me, Richo. Yeah. Darson, I've had a big one.
Right here on Triple M.
On your network a little bit earlier on in the year. So there's Dars. Trent Cotchin, I took the Nicky out of and they went. Yep. But I think everyone's, pretty good. We can, as when you're a footballer, you do cop this sort of strong feedback a lot. So I think you're used to copping it and having a disagreement or a dispute with a teammate or an opposition player, and then you move on pretty quickly.
It's a bit of
Professionally,
sort of
I've
window
moved
dressing.
on.
Daisy
I
Daisy's
honestly,
the easiest to work with.
I can't wait, because if I am to be alongside Kane and he does have any of these takes in now a working capacity, I'll still take the same views as I had on his opinions, even though I'm not meant to have opinions on his opinion. Yeah. But I think as part of what a show brings, I have to do that at some stage. I'll happily go toe-to-toe with the big
It's going to
fella.
be a good 1-2 punch. It'll be a good 1-2 punch.
Because I think I'll be speaking more the
player's
language
side.
of the player and the common man, whereas Kane will be taking the higher
And will
road
you be
and
on programming with Kane? Do you know that yet?
I'm not sure if he'll be on 7 Mate with me, but hopefully. No, look, we'll wait and see.
You're the
Big
main
news-
man now, Dave.
You are, Dave.
Well,
You're
you're
going
working
to try
on
and
it.
hold your ground.
Let's drop back down to number 2 now.
Yeah, I know. What a disaster.
Well, there's plenty of news kicking about, Damo. We'll touch on that next, plus fair dinkum or Fugazi, and we're going to get your gradings for the teams that didn't make the finals because there's no games to preview.
I know,
Damo's
Damo's grading.
B plus for North.
Get ready, we are giving you
North
North
had a good
Melbourne
year.
to come. But Damo's news is coming up next. Some big news coming out of Melbourne still with Christian Petracca. This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Joey, Daisy and Damo. Fair dinkum or Fugazi, and the boys are going to grade the teams that didn't make the finals in the 2024 season. This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Damo, I should say, it is time for your news, and the Petracca situation is getting messier by the day.
It is, Rabsy, and there is, as we talk, and we have to time code it because things change, just before 11 o'clock on this Wednesday of this week, and there's no change to it, and that is that he does seek a new home, and that new home in his ideal world will be at another big Melbourne football club, and then the flow and effects of all of that. We've all got a view on it. We've all, I think, got an understanding of it as best we can to this point of it. But it's not going away. And it's now, I suppose, what happens next. Which club tries to engage? Which club will come up for the currency that he wants? The doubts about him. And I've written a column overnight, guys, on afl.com.au. And I've used the words selfish and immature on this. And I just want to keep backing over. I know what Christian Petracca went through because he tells us, and he very vividly tells us the emotional trauma, the physical trauma of the King's birthday. I know his mindset is different to what it was prior to that, and I factor all that in. But equally, he's a player who's got a contract until the end of 2029. It's a team sport. He made comments about being a one-club player and using Nathan Jones as an example of that when he signed that deal in 2021. And right now, he is acting purely for himself, and that's okay to do so. And it's equally okay for people to have opinions about it. And I do know that his teammates are tiring of this aspect of his outlook.
Talk to me about the wording that continues to be a big Melbourne club. Is that in itself a different level of selfishness to go to a club that's best fit in terms of going to play finals, list profile, or is this purely in that sense about the brand Petracca, which you reference in your article?
It is about the brand Petracca to answer that question, but I'm keen to get Joey's views on that.
Look, to be fair, it is complex, because there are so many layers to this Petracca story. No doubt the injury is the big one. There is an element of, I think he's thinking about life after footy and his brand and how he can sort of market himself for post-football. And then there has been a lot of shit that has happened at Melbourne, from Glenn Bartlett to the Joel Smith and Clayton Oliver situations and the Goodwin attacks. And I get there's been a lot happening. So I understand that there's a fair bit in it, but you're right. It isn't coming out well for Christian at the moment, I don't think. I think there is starting to be a bit of a turn in regards to what the perception is of Christian Petracca, and now we are hearing it from the other side of teammates and the club's thoughts and those sorts of things. So it is messy, and it doesn't look like there's an end in sight. It looks like this is going to play out for 3 or 4 more weeks, which is going to be pretty annoying because it is news every single day.
Daisy, you do take the view of the player in most public commentary, and I think it's a great position you've decided to take in media because it's a genuine one. I mean, it's where you think and it's how you want to portray yourself and players. But the selfishness aspect to this, what are you prepared to say about this as it unfolds? And given that the backdrop is, this is a guy who has no guarantees about his next training session, let alone where he should have the right to play.
In terms of if I was a teammate, I'd be reaching out as often as I can to try and, I guess, change the mindset that we're here for you. We want to help you through this, not it's you against us. Because at the minute, that's how I take it. It is Team Petracca, which of course is his management, his fiance, his wife, his family that he's constantly being referenced throughout all the media that he's doing. I would love for somehow that wall to be broken where it feels like he's back within the playing group, and he's the playing group. Then maybe if you still got grievances against a CEO, a past CEO, whatever it is you're handling of it, I'd be trying to do my best to bring him back to the group. At the minute, though, my take on it is that he sounds like he has no interest in that. He's happy to be out as a silo.
That is correct. I can confirm that.
Yeah, and
at
to
the
doing
moment,
that
that might change, but right now, that is where it is at.
And in speaking to a few of senior AFL figure in terms of clubland and just asking their take on it, the question marks that I hadn't looked at the lens through of, he can only run currently or get his heart rate to 100 beats a minute. The talk of, and he's openly spoken about the mental toll it's taken, literally PTSD from what it was. And it is, when you hear it and the way it's laid out, on literally an operating table, not being able to be knocked out for it, it would be horrific.
Yeah.
We all grant that. But what does that then mean? If that is in your memory, do you want to go back? Can you go back? Like mentally, are you blocked out from playing football to the level you once got to? These are all questions now that from the other lens, people are starting to ask.
And then, Joey, you get to the transaction aspect of this conversation and you work in this space and you know how it works. So you've got a guy who's 28, turning 29 with 5 years remaining on a deal. We know what his best is. It's Norm Smith medal winning all-time great best. Equally, the doubt that the days he's just attested to, how do you get a deal done? And the big clubs, and the biggest club, the one he wants to go to is Collingwood, doesn't have any currency. It hasn't even got a first-round draft pick.
Well, this is why it's fascinating, because at what point do Melbourne take into consideration all these factors, the sort of splintering he's put within the playing group and his level to come back and say, maybe we have to take a bit less than initially thought. We want the world. Maybe it is. Maybe we just take something else. But Melbourne have to come to that realisation. Other clubs are going to be trying to manoeuvre and say, how much do we want Clayton? And he's going to have to accept something as well. That's why I still think there's heaps to play out in this situation. And then the scenario could be, and very well likely, that he has to walk back into Melbourne the Melbourne Football Club next year with him being one of the leaders and one of the main figures of that club, with his whole teammates knowing he didn't really want to be here. That's got to be awkward for the footy club going forward if that's the case.
In saying that, I was in a situation where Bryce Gibbs tried to get to Adelaide in one of the off seasons, came back in, and by the second week of preseason, it was, moved on very quickly. So players do, from a professional point of view, move on from that. Whether or not in these next couple of months, though, it gets to a point where that isn't the case. Bryce Gibbs a different one. From my point of view, that's where it landed.
Damo, Petracca's not the only player that wants to be at another club next season. Though we've already seen Dan Rioli, Tom Barrass and John Noble request trades.
In the past 24 hours, all those came through officially, all contracted. Rioli to Richmond until 2027. Barrass also contracted beyond this year, well and truly beyond this year. And Noble at Collingwood. I just wanted to throw this up, guys, as a concept that every single player is a free agent these days, regardless of contractual status.
Yeah, they are. And
Petracca's got 5 years to go.
Yeah.
Well, there's your case.
And I think that's the way of the world. These players have got their contracts, so they get paid regardless. And the clubs do have leverage as well. You got to remember, when a player is in contract, you get a much better deal in return than if a player is out of contract. So they also do have leverage, and they don't have to trade the player if they want. So I still see these situations as win-wins for club and player. It's not just purely the player, because the club has the right to say no or demand, something really significant in return for these type of players.
Yep. Tribunal last night, Cozzy Pickett was trying to downgrade his 3-match ban for the hit on Darcy Moore. I felt Darcy Moore took his feet. I felt it should have been mitigated in the sanction, 3 weeks, maybe down to 1. But ultimately, as it stands, he's yet to make it known whether he wants to appeal it through the appeals tribunal. 3 weeks stands, and Matt Owies will miss for a dangerous tackle on Jack Higgins, so he will miss that first final for the Blues against Brisbane Lions. I just want to come at this perspective, guys. These tribunal hearings didn't finish until about 1 a.m. So we're, again, getting legal people debating the split-second actions over hours of boring argument, and this is how the system is working for us.
I'm glad the year's ended how it started for you, Damo. Still a shambles. Like, even the Matt Owies one. The tackle with him and Liam Jones was almost identical, and yet one bloke is allowed to play in a final, another guy's not.
I'm glad you raised that. How can you line those two incidents up?
There was almost compassion from the AFL. So Liam Jones has never played a final.
And
it's his 200th game. You know what? We'll just lower. Even though every other dangerous tackle they upgrade at one level because of the potential
potential.
But not in this situation. Not in this situation. We'll keep it. Well, good luck to him. I'm not against Liam Jones, but it's
and Lockie Ash might have a problem too,
Yeah,
because that
that's
was a
exactly
very
right.
similar tackle to what he did.
Cosy
Jones
Pickett
on
made
Cadman.
the decision to bump when Darcy Moore was upright.
Yes,
Like,
I know.
and it wasn't
Yeah.
to clean him up. It
Yeah.
was to make contact,
Yeah.
to push him
Yeah.
off the ball so he could win the ball.
Yeah.
Darcy Moore was the one who
Agreed.
elected to go
Took
to
his legs.
ground.
Yeah.
So I'm like, again.
So now, if someone's going to bump someone fairly, you can just drop down and lean with your head, and then
Correct.
go, "Oh, hit me in
3
the head."
weeks.
That's 3 weeks
Yeah.
because he instigated it.
This
Yeah.
is such a mess. Does it get fixed over the off-season?
no way.
No.
We'll talk about fixing
Yeah.
it, and we'll have the same confusion
Good.
again. Yeah.
All Australian squad.
Yeah,
Damo's
tomorrow
been named.
night. So 44 players named on Monday. Whittled back to the team tomorrow night. The ruck's the interesting one. Cherry got a place in the squad alongside Gawn. There's also Darcy Cameron from Collingwood, the three options. I feel they might just go with one ruckman because there's a lot of midfielders that need to be crammed into that team,
Jeez,
and
it's
deservedly so.
Yeah, I've got no problem with the one ruck. Yeah,
Who is it then?
I've got Gawn still.
I was leaning towards Sherry. Remember we had the chat maybe
Yeah.
sort of 4 weeks ago. Gawn
Darcy
did finish
Cameron's
pretty
been-
strong. I probably will lean to Gawn, I think, just for sentiment. Or it'll be number 7 or
Number
8?
seven.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably Gawn. But you could, flip a coin. But yeah, otherwise it's a pretty strong squad. There's not
good
too
squad.
many issues with it. Trying to fit them into 22 is going to be the challenge.
Do we try and change it, though, to actually best position? Because there's going to be some small forwards who probably get booted out. Like Massimo D'Ambrosio's had an awesome year,
Yeah.
but if he's coming up as a half forward against or a wing.
No, I've got no problem with that. The
You
All
just
Australia,
stack
you are
the mids
rewarding
in?
the best players in the competition. It's not the two. There's only 6 good wingmen in the competition. You're going to give 2 wingmen.
Yeah.
I like the way you've got to spread it. Be fair and reasonable. You don't just put mids in every position, but you've got to reward the best players of the year with an All Australian Guernsey because it is pretty significant, the accolade.
Yeah, I mean, even just if you think about the starting midfield trio,
Yeah.
so to speak. Okay, I'd say it's Gawn, but then you've got Cripps, Bontempelli,
Neil.
Sarong, Heaney,
Dacos,
Warner,
Warner,
Dacos,
Heaney.
yeah.
I mean,
Merritt.
even just the starting midfield trio is going to be an absence of significance.
Plenty more to come on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Up next, it's fair dinkum or Fugazi. Joey Montagna, we spoke about the All-Australian just previously. Rowan Marshall is unlucky to miss the All-Australian squad.
Yes, good start. Fair dinkum. He's probably the unluckiest. I had a look at the numbers last night. He basically has Darcy Cameron covered in all of them, except for intercept marks. But so he's probably the stiffest.
Cal Wilkie stiff too.
Cal Wilkie is stiff as well. So is Nat and Nazai Wanganeen Miller and Jackie.
Any up?
And
Jack
Dan
Steele
Butler.
and Tim Membry.
yeah.
and Darcy Wilson.
Damo, Port Adelaide would be premiership favourites if it wasn't for their recent finals history.
No, that's Fugazi. I like what they've done, but you've got a standout team now that's in the Sydney Swans, now that they've got their past 3 weeks of order back in place.
Speaking of the Swans, Daisy, Taylor Adams is set for another hard luck finals story.
Jeez, do I have to go with... I'm going to go with Fugazi. I'm going to say that opportunity will present. If the Swans have to do it somewhat of a harder way than it looks like they may, I'm going to hope for Tay's sake that he gets an opportunity, but it does look like it's probably more fair income than Fugazi.
Luke Parker's been impressive since coming back into that
He's
side as
been
well.
Very
Yes.
good. Yeah, they've got to fit 3 players back in.
McInerney
4
has
players.
to come back in, Heaney, and obviously
Papley
Papley.
and Tom McCartan.
All right, calm down.
McCartan, 4.
Damo, this was last week, but Adelaide couldn't have handled the Josh Rochelle dropping much worse.
No, that's fair dinkum. It was just another botched issue from the Adelaide Crows. And if you want to make the decision, fine, but then explain it properly as opposed to what Matthew Nicks tried to do when they called a media conference to explain the reason for the dropping. And I didn't agree with the dropping. I was happy to listen to why. I didn't get a proper reason why. And I feel they just try to be tough late. And that was after they let it carry and fester for 22 weeks of a 23-match season.
Do we have any official clarity? Was it because he was taunting Port fans and carrying on?
That was the reason. And that was
So
not a...
completely form related.
That was
No, wasn't it more meeting the team's expectations and the bit of the...
It was
I think they're
Celebrating
it was
with
the
team.
me component
not
as
so-
opposed to
yeah,
the
yeah.
collective component. A bit what maybe Christian Petracca is doing at the moment.
Oh, Jesus, bullets to fire. Old Barrett over here.
Daisy, Jesse Hogan winning the Coleman at his third club is one of footy's great stories.
Yeah, that is 100% fair dinkum, if not the best story of the year. Fantastic. What he's done, turnaround. Good to see a bloke finally reach his potential. So many in history in this game's riddled with blokes who have had potential and for whatever reason just haven't been able to get it click. to click, but the fact that he has, and also I love the fact that his meaning is also his mum, the happiness that she gets seeing him play footy. I love the way he's spoken about that. Pumped to see him and what he's done this season, and he's going to have a big say in how far the Giants can go.
Joey, Fremantle need to pay whatever it takes to get Bolton out of the Tigers.
No, that's Fugazi, Rabsy. Good player, but start with a second rounder. Work from there.
Second round.
Get your bias hat off and answer it properly, please.
Take the Dockers hat off.
What do you give for him?
He's a very good player.
What do you give for him?
Well, at least one first rounder. And then whatever else.
How high up is that first
I'm
rounder?
not sure. I don't decide that. But he's a good player.
Well,
Very
you
good player.
do. You work for the club.
Well dodged.
All right, Joey. Isaac Heaney needs to play forward for the ball for Sydney to win the flag.
It's a great.
Stevie J's big on that.
I know he's big on that. And Isaac Heaney was the best player in the competition for 14 weeks as a midfielder. I think it needs to be more of a split, a 50-50 split forward midfield for Sydney's best chances. So that is a half fair income, half Fugazi. No, it's a fair income then. He needs to play more forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 51-49.
Yeah. Damo, the only bad thing about the Dogs and Hawks final is that it isn't later on in the finals.
Yeah, that is fair income. That these two clubs could do the extraordinary and go all the way, but unfortunately, as of week one of finals, only one will have the possibility of still being able to do that. And it's a shame because I feel that they're both worthy potentially of prelim final outcomes at the very least. And obviously, only one is going to have that chance after week one.
Is there a chance the AFLW game is moved because of this?
Yeah, there's a talk that is the case. I mean, because the Bulldogs wanted to use that occasion to relaunch, didn't they?
Correct.
Their Whitten Stadium redevelopment, which was a sound in theory, but the AFL didn't want to listen to that part of it and took the view of your network, Channel 7, which has got an equal stake in these conversations, given the money it pours in, to play that game, that Western Bulldogs Hawthorn elimination final on that Friday night, the same day.
That part's interesting considering that a lot of the AFLW is triggers and amount of attendance, all these sorts of things to continue the growth of it. So from that point of view, not great.
Not at all.
Daisy, the two captains should have been allowed to shake hands and end the game early like a test match when the lighting came on Friday night.
Fair income. That's common sense. And in this business, it ain't that common. Look, that game was put to bed. Nobody was going to gain anything except Nick Dacos. Joey, you told us. Sit down, get comfy. You guys were actually on fire last week. You said North.
We're going to play. We're going to play Damos. We've got that coming.
We've got Anyway,
you did call the Dacos thing. You said they were playing for one reason.
That was pretty obvious.
Actually, we don't have a chance to air these too. Did you see Brownie Triple M claiming that Brownie was the oracle, saying Fremantle lose both his games?
Oh, what about that?
Talk about Jasper the week before and said don't go with it just yet, and then once the game had won. Love-hearted his own thing, saying go with it.
Amazing, wasn't it, from Brownie? It wasn't like he was Nostradamus. He basically said Fremantle are going to lose to the Giants and Port Adelaide and miss finals. It wasn't like it was an amazing. And
second and third on the ladder at the time.
It got a social media title. You're a suck, Jasper.
Yeah, you're on the payroll, mate.
All right.
Jog on.
Well, let's do it now, Joey. This is Damo from last week. Hawthorn versus North Melbourne down at Launceston.
If the Hawks are serious, it'll be 133 points.
Well, it will be. What if North are serious?
If North is serious, it'll be 121 points deficit.
North Melbourne lost by 124 points.
That is one of the best.
Fair income or Fugazi. Damien Barrett is the oracle.
100%. You can have it. Yeah, I've been shocking this year. So you are the oracle. Did you have a small wage?
What odds to win by 120
Are you allowed
plus?
to?
I think I am, but I just don't because there is some ambiguity around the eligible allowances of it, so I just don't.
That was brilliant.
Damo, we've already touched on this. The first Channel 7 game featuring Luke Darcy, Daisy Thomas and Kane Corns on the same call will be box office viewing.
Where do I tune in?
UFC 307.
You've got to manufacture that.
Yeah. I'm in.
Daisy, if Carlton are fair income, Steve Silvani will be giving Christian Petracca the hard word in Sushi Mango's restaurant on Lygon Street tonight.
I don't really understand that. It was
us will want to get Don't worry about it.
Leave that in. Rudy, leave that in.
Rudy, why'd you write that?
Oh, look at him. You just threw Rudy under the bus and he hated that.
Oh, no.
And make sure you don't cut that out, Reggie.
No.
But also fetting him.
I had no idea what you're talking about either.
No, neither did I.
Fugazi.
Yeah, Fugazi. 100%. Or fetting him, allegedly.
Oh, we've lost our way. Damo, to borrow a line from Batman, Michael Voss is the hero Melbourne deserves, but not the one it needs right now.
You've lost your way.
I think we should have ended
Answer
this
that one,
segment
Damo.
maybe 3
Answer
minutes
that
ago.
one. Answer that one.
Oh, fair dinkum, Reggie. Yeah, that's right, fair dinkum.
I've got heaps more. Should we just end
Yeah,
it?
do one more.
Yeah, one more.
All right, well, here's some audio of Bevo.
It's interesting, Lobby, he's almost got that attitude that if you cut a leg off, he'll grow it back. And I was trying to work out what sort of reptiles I'll get myself into trouble here, whether it's a salamander or a chameleon or it's just your garden variety lizard that can do that.
Joey Montagna,
don't ask me.
or Fugazi. Sydney have the lizard, and now the Bulldogs have the salamander.
No, it's time. It's time.
No, that's time to get out. That's Fugazi.
Burn this tape.
This is Triple M Footy's Midweek. It didn't really work last time, so let's go again.
Now on the Midweek Rub, it's...
I'm only joking. It was absolute chaos to finish. We're never doing that again.
No.
We're going to
You
do
ruined
some...
your track record.
Yeah. Going to do some gradings for the teams that didn't make the finals this season in 2024. We're going to start with you, Joe Montagna. What is your grading for the Richmond Footy Club?
What's the criteria first?
So a
everyone...
B is like above average. So that's an A obviously means very good, which we can't give. I wouldn't have thought any of these teams. A B
These
is
teams have all failed.
a C is a pass, and then a D is below, and then an F is a complete fail.
Yeah.
So Richmond, for me, well, that's a fail. They finished last, and they've won 2 games, and they had better players than that. So I know they had injuries, they had excuses, so I could have given it a D, but let's just start with the big F.
It's going to save North Melbourne for a little bit. Daisy Thomas, West Coast.
What is it? A, B, C, D, E, F. A fail.
Yep.
Again, underachieved, looked okay, but second,
Ultimately
third
blew
last.
it up again. Yeah.
The Adelaide Crows, Damo. Intriguing season for the Crows.
Look, I'm going to give them an E, which is still a fail too, isn't it, Joey? Under the old school, is that a fail?
Yeah, it
or
was.
near
under
close?
Yep.
Only because to have 8 wins, I know there's a draw attached to that as well, but 8 wins only out of a season in which they were convinced internally they were going to be shooting up the ladder. And I know you can argue the fixture may have been more difficult than some others. I get all of that, but they just continually and constantly underwhelm as a football club, and they didn't handle it all the Rochelle thing, in my eyes, at all well. So E.
Melbourne, Joe Montagna. How do you find their season?
No, well, they are
Including their off-season currently.
they're a D. A D. 11 wins. They had a lot of issues going on. That was a write-off year. So I still think that it's hard now with the Petracca situation, but whether they bounce back next year. But yeah, they'll poor.
What about the Gold Coast Suns, Damo?
I'm really critical of them, but again, I have no expectation on them, so it'll be a D- for me in that regard. Not quite a fail because they did win 11 games, but they were telling us they were ready to make finals and didn't want to even put a ceiling on what they could do. That was the words of the coach himself. So they failed in that regard, but a D- on the season for me.
Saints, Daisy?
I'm going to give the Saints a B because of the way they've finished off the year. 6 of the last 8 games, and this is probably with a lens a little bit to how I think they're speaking about next year and what is going to come. But I didn't think they were going to be anywhere near it, and especially after the halfway mark. They fought on to the end gallantly and valiantly. A B, I think, is probably fair.
We're saving North Melbourne because we are going from 18th to 9th, and Damo's going to be doing North Melbourne. So just letting him simmer on that for a little bit.
A-.
Essendon, Joey?
Yeah, I give them a pass. They get a C because none of us had them in their in the 8 at the start of the year.
C?
Well, did you have them in the 8? Because we've got to go by what we expected at the start of the year, is what I think. So I think no one had Essendon in their 8.
When they're sitting, what was it, top 3?
And then they would have been
with 6 weeks to go.
They would have been a B if they'd have played finals, and unfortunately they missed finals, so they dropped down
lenient.
to C because
Like you as a school teacher.
Yeah.
Did you have them in your top 8?
No, but you've got to
So they've finished- they've only
reconfigure your
finished-
views on the run, and they had the easiest of draw of all times.
So that's why it's a C. I thought it was a pass. They've got a long way to go, but that's where I had them at the start of the year, just to miss the 8, and that's what they've just done.
What about Fremantle, Damo? If I'd have asked you this question 4 weeks ago, the answer would have been pretty different.
It would have been, but I changed my opinion on the run on what we are exposed to, and to lose their last 4 games, and the damning one in that was the loss to Essendon at the start of those 4 matches, to then slip out of the 8. So I'm giving that particular club another fail in an E.
An E?
I would have been nearly gone
Gee
further.
whiz.
An E
Really?
even.
Well, if you talk about the expectation on what we thought they'd do pre-season,
Yep.
I thought they would have been a top 4, at least top 8
Really?
side. Yeah, I thought they could have bounced. And then from what we saw until all bar the last month,
It was
Yep.
nearly that.
disappointing. Yeah.
I know there are injuries. I know Tracy being out, Pearce being out, Darcy being out. That problems, but that wasn't the reason, in my eyes, they lost those 4 games.
What about the Pies, Daisy? Could you have thought when
A+.
you're in the rooms
They were brilliant.
post-premiership last year that they won't be making finals?
I didn't know. So, again, it probably has to be near enough to an F. Missed opportunity again. The season is even and we need to understand all of that. But to not play finals and back up, it's unfortunate, but it's a fail of a season.
And weirdly enough, if they had have somehow got through, they would have caused some damage, I
Yeah.
think, again, because their last 5 or 6 weeks was
Correct.
pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Finally, Damien Barrett.
Yep.
North Melbourne's season in
Yes.
2024.
Big
Well,
fat
Joey
A.
would
Nice
give him a B
wins.
plus, wouldn't you? Actually, you go first on him. You give him a B plus, wouldn't
No,
you?
I wouldn't give. No, a bit disappointing. I thought they'd do better. They were competitive, but in the end, no, that's a D. I would have. I thought a pass mark would be higher than that.
I'm giving them an F minus.
I don't think that exists.
Well, it does on my rankings.
F minus.
Less than a fail.
Gee whiz.
That's great. I don't
I
think
like it.
15,
even
they've had
I got
15
one of them.
wins.
This is reverse,
15 wins in 5 years they've had. So well
reverse
done.
psychology from Damo. He's
Yeah.
firing him up.
Oh, yeah.
He's tricking. He loves them.
They're unfire-upable.
We have lost our way.
We have. We will be back next Wednesday ahead of the finals with the midweek rub. By the way, we are broadcasting some AFLW this weekend on Triple M. You can hear it on the Listener app and on Triple M. A double header on Friday night, starting in Sydney, North Sydney Oval, the Swans and the Pies. This has been Triple M Footy's midweek rub.